Hi class! In today's lecture we're going to be talking a little bit about some of the most common policies and procedures that you may encounter in your time here at U of A as a student. So hopefully a lot of informative stuff that you may not need to know right now, but is probably something that you'll eventually end up needing to know. And it's better to know now beforehand than sometime in the future after things happen when you might be in a bad situation versus a good one. So let's get started. So all of the policies for the University of Arizona are contained within a document called the Academic Catalog. So this is the big book of all the rules and procedures that every department and college in the university follows. And these are the policies specifically related to academics. So the catalog contains policies on what type of courses are required for you to graduate and what type of transfer credit can be accepted. Pretty much anything that's related to academics, there's some type of policy outlined in the academic catalog. So in general, the university expects that students have reviewed the academic catalog and have familiarized themselves with the contents of the catalog. Now, obviously, as a student, that can be a really hard task because there are over 500 policies listed in this academic catalog. So that's where an academic advisor comes in. We are trained pretty much in interpreting and understanding the policies that are listed in the catalog. So if you do have questions or concerns about a particular policy, your academic advisor should be the expert that you go to for explanation. Now, you noticed here in the presentation that it emphasizes that students are responsible for knowing and understanding the contents of the catalog that they are following. So what this means is that each year, each academic year, and an academic year is fall semester, spring semester, summer semester, in that order. So each academic year follows a new catalog. The catalog that you follow is determined by when you first enroll at the University of Arizona. So when you first enroll, you follow the catalog that has come into place in that academic year. There may be updates to the catalog in future academic years, but those will only apply to students who are part of those future academic catalogs. You'll still follow the policies and procedures set forth in the academic catalog for your specific academic year. So for all students who are new this fall 2014, your academic catalog will be the catalog for the 2014-2015 academic school year. So where can you find the catalog? You can access the academic catalog online, and I've listed a hyperlink here so you can jot that down or commit it to memory. And they actually used to print the academic catalog, but they don't do that any longer because, like I mentioned earlier, there's over 500 policies and procedures, and that would mean they would be wasting a lot of paper. So the entire catalog is electronic, and it actually makes it way easier to find the policies that you may be looking for in an electronic version. So what I want to do now is actually take you to the academic catalog webpage. So as I indicated in the PowerPoint presentation, the hyperlink to get to the academic catalog is catalog.arizona.edu. And the landing page that you get to is a page that lists all of the academic catalogs from the past 20 years or so. And the catalog that you choose will be the catalog for your academic year. So if I, for instance, was a student that started school in fall of 2010, I would choose the 2010-2011 catalog. For your purposes, a student starting in fall of 2014, you fall under the 2014-2015 catalog, so that is what you would select. Now, when you choose your academic catalog, there's an index all along the left-hand side, and it lets you know what is in the academic catalog that you can search. So, of course, there's an index where you can look at an alphabetical listing of everything that's in the catalog. There's a link to Degree Search, where you can go and explore the different undergraduate degrees that are available at U of A, and we're actually going to be talking about that in the next lecture. It lets you see a listing of the different academic departments on campus, so you can see all the different departments, schools, colleges. The academic policy section is what you would click to actually view the specific policies within the catalog. And you can see here that they are in alphabetical order, and as you scroll through, you can just search for whatever policy you may be looking for. Or maybe you're interested in taking the CLEP test. Well, you can choose that policy, and it will give you information on the CLEP policy and its application to your academics at U of A. So maybe you wanted to take the CLEP test in Spanish language, so you could look at this CLEP table, find the Spanish language, and it will indicate to you that, oh, I need a score of at least a 55 in order to get credit for Spanish 102 to satisfy my second language requirement. Okay, so if we go back to the index, beyond the academic policies, there is a page where you can view course descriptions. So if you are ever in need, for any reason, or for finding a course description for a class, you can come here. All the departments are alphabetized again, and you can choose the department that the course you're interested in is offered under, and you can click the class, and it will give you information on the description of the class. Okay. There is also information listed for general education. So sometimes students are interested particularly in the policies for general education, and clicking that link will give you more information. There is a listing of all of the majors and degrees that are offered here at the University of Arizona. So if you are interested in what the degree requirements for another program look like, you can come to this page. You could choose the program that you're interested in, and what it will do is it will give you kind of a blank academic advisement report, so you can see all of the requirements for any particular degree program. So maybe if you were considering changing your major or adding a second major, you can pull this up and scroll through so that you can see the different requirements that are needed for a particular program. Also in the index is a listing of all of the minors, and you can do the same thing that you did for the majors. So if you're interested in adding a specific minor, you can come to this page and you can view the requirements beforehand to see if it's something that you might be interested in, or the type of classes look like the type of courses that you're interested in taking. So overall, the catalog is a really, really handy tool, and it has a lot of information in it. So let's go back to the presentation. Okay, so what I want to talk a little bit about now are some of the most common or widely used policies at the University of Arizona. So in general, students are utilizing these particular policies the most often. So one of the most common policies that students often have issues or questions regarding is attendance. And one of the most interesting things to know is that as a college student, your instructor actually determines your attendance policy. So there's actually not any set attendance policy or requirement at the university. So attendance may or may not be required for your class. And you'll want to check your syllabus to verify whether or not you have to attend to earn points or to pass the class, or you don't. So one thing to note is that an instructor does have the ability to administratively drop students. An instructor may choose to administratively drop any student who doesn't attend on the first day of class. They may say, oh, if you don't come on the first day, that means that you're not serious about this class, and they can administratively drop you. And what that means is that they can go into UAccess and drop you without your permission. An instructor also has the ability to administratively drop a student that has many absences. So say a student misses 4 or 5 class periods in a row, the instructor can choose to administratively drop them as well. For your information though, the administrative drop is something that is rarely used by instructors. So a lot of times students are under the assumption that if they just quit attending classes, they'll be automatically dropped. But in most cases, that is not correct. And a lot of times when students make that improper assumption, what happens is they never attend class, they never get dropped from the class, so when all is said and done, they end up receiving a failing grade. So don't ever assume that your instructor is going to administratively drop you from a class. If you don't want to be in the class any longer, just don't stop attending. Follow the appropriate procedures to properly drop or withdraw from the class. So each faculty member is responsible for managing their classroom in a manner in which they see fit. So what that means is they are the ones who determine what constitutes an excused absence. And this is sometimes hard for students to understand because different instructors may have different policies. Some instructors may be very lenient on what an excused absence is, and some may be very strict. So I've worked with students whose instructors haven't excused their absences for illness. And it may seem like it's not fair, but in reality, it is their prerogative to determine their own attendance policy. So you, again, will want to verify with your instructor, primarily in the syllabus, what the attendance policy is and what they consider to be an excused absence, or how to get an excused absence. So since it is the instructor's prerogative to manage their own classroom and their own attendance policy, the University of Arizona isn't able to excuse absences for students. So what that means is that if you're sick, you can't go to the U of A and request any type of excuse, or they can't make your professor accept work that you want to turn in late. They can't do anything like that. The only time that the university can prove to an instructor that you've been absent and it is a legitimate excused absence is through something that's called a dean's excuse. And a dean's excuse only provides excused absences for a university-sponsored event or activity. So what that means is if you are a part of a class, say for instance Dr. Wilson's soils class, he has a soils lab and he goes on a few field trips throughout the entire semester. Well, when he goes on a field trip, that's considered a university-related activity, and what would happen is that the students who attend those field trips would get a dean's excuse, saying that they can give their instructors, and that dean's excuse says, little Tommy or Janie is excused because they are gone on official University of Arizona business. Another example would be if you are in, let's say you are in an organization and that organization has a national conference or a competition. As long as that club or organization that you are in is an officially recognized club through the University of Arizona, you can get a dean's excuse for your absence while you're at that competition or at that conference. So the only time the university is ever able to provide you with an excused absence, which is called the dean's excuse, is if you are on official university business. And in that case, your instructor or your club advisor would have to request those dean's excuses for you through the Dean of Students office. Any other type of absence, an illness, an injury, any other extenuating circumstance, maybe get called for jury duty, anything like that. It's up to your instructor whether or not they will consider it an excused or an unexcused absence, and it's their prerogative on whether or not they'll allow you to make up work, turn in assignments late, anything related to the academics of their class. So pay attention to the attendance policy for each of your courses as it's laid out in each individual syllabus. Okay, so another class policy or academic policy that students are often confused about is the policy on class standing. So a lot of students are under the impression that their class standing relates to how many semesters they've been at the U of A. And they think, oh, well, once I've been at the U of A for a year, I'm no longer considered a freshman, I'll be a sophomore. But in reality, your class standing is actually determined by the number of units that you've earned. So it doesn't correspond to the number of semesters that you've been on campus. So all freshmen are students who have earned no college credit or up to 29 units of college credit. Once a student earns 30 units of college credit, then they move class standing to become a sophomore. Once you hit 60 units of earned credit, you become a junior, and once you hit 90, you are considered a senior. So some students who are taking this class may be considered sophomores right now. Maybe they took a lot of AP or IB tests or dual enrollment credit, and they came in with over 30 units. In that case, even though it's their very first semester going to the university, since they've earned 30 or more units, they're actually classified as a sophomore. And that goes the opposite way too. So if a student is only taking 12 units each semester, they take 12 units this fall and 12 units next spring, that means they've only completed 24 units, and when they start again in fall 2015, they'll still be considered a freshman even though they're coming into their second year at the University of Arizona. So it's going to be important for you to understand this policy, especially when it comes time for priority registration. And we have a whole class dedicated to priority registration. So we'll explain how class standing plays into that priority registration process in a future lecture. Okay, so another common policy that students are often concerned about is the double use of courses. So students often want to know, are they allowed to use one course to satisfy multiple requirements? Well, in general, it's up to each individual department to determine if a course can be used to satisfy more than one requirement. So what that means is you may be in the School of Animal and Comparative Biomedical Sciences, and they may allow you to use some upper division animal science courses in another major that also count in your animal science major, but maybe you are in the School of Natural Resources, and they may have a policy that says you're not allowed to use any of the courses in their major to count towards another major. So it's really up to the determination of each individual department or school on whether or not you can use the same course to satisfy multiple requirements or requirements that are in different programs. There are 3 double-dipping policies, however, that are laid out in the academic catalog. So these are outside the scope of the individual departments. So the 3 policies that are actually, or the 3 double-dipping policies that are actually listed in the catalog, the first is about a math course. So any math course that is higher than the level of Calculus 1 can also apply to a major or minor. So what this means is if you have, for instance, if you have credit for Calculus 2, it can satisfy your math requirement, and it may also be used to satisfy a course requirement in your major. So a higher level math course can double dip. If you take a second language and you complete a 3rd and 4th semester level course for that second language, it can be used to satisfy a major or minor requirement as well. That probably won't be the case for many students in our college, since the second language requirement is only to the second semester, so most students won't be taking the third and fourth semester level language courses. But for students who do take those third and fourth semester language courses, those can potentially be used to satisfy requirements in a major or minor. And then probably the most commonly used double dipping policy is the one that states a maximum of 2 Tier 2 courses can be used to satisfy requirements in a minor. So what that means is if you take, for instance, Econ 200, Basic Economic Issues, to satisfy your Tier 2 individuals and societies, and then you add a business minor, what that means is that Econ 200 can count in your Tier 2 general education, and it can also count towards the minor requirements. In general, most departments are not going to allow double dipping. Most departments are going to want you to take individual, unique courses to satisfy each requirement. But again, it is up to the department to determine what their double dipping policy is. So if you think you might be in a situation where one course may count towards multiple requirements, you'll want to verify with the academic advisor for that program. Okay, so another very, very common policy that we come across a lot with students is the policy on dropping or withdrawing. So first, let me explain to you what the difference between a drop and a withdrawal is. If you are to drop a course, it refers to the fact that it is removed from your schedule and it never appears on your academic record. So if you were to drop a course, nobody would ever be able to see on your official transcript that you had been registered for it. Versus a withdraw allows you to get out of a course, so you don't have to complete it. However, the course appears on your official transcript with a grade of W, and the W indicates a withdraw. So what that tells anybody who looks at your official transcript is you were registered for the class, but you dropped the course after the appropriate drop deadline and you earned a grade of W, so you withdrew from the class. A grade of W does not calculate into your GPA, so you are not penalized for withdrawing from a class. It just purely indicates that you attempted the class, but you dropped it after the posted drop deadline. So if you are interested in dropping a single course, dropping or withdrawing a single course, or a couple classes, but not all of your classes, there's a graphic here that explains to you the timeline through which you can drop or withdraw. So if you refer to the graphic, you should be able to see that during the first 2 weeks of class, you're eligible to drop a course in UAccess and not receive a grade. Something to note down there at the bottom is where it says fee, and that indicates to you whether or not the university will charge you a fee to drop the class. Now, something else that you may be interested to know in is that the deadline for receiving a complete refund for dropping a class is the end of the first week. So even though you can drop for 2 weeks, you'll only get a refund if you drop during the first week. So during those first 2 weeks, you can drop and receive no grade. The class does not appear on your official record. From the 3rd week through the end of the 10th week, students can still get out of a class. However, the course will appear on their official transcript and they will earn a grade of W. So to do this, you don't need instructor's permission, you don't need the dean's permission. You can withdraw from the course through your UAccess Student Center. What you want to be aware of, however, is that there is an 18-unit cap on withdrawals. So what that means for you as a student is that if you withdraw from 18 units, the university will no longer allow you to withdraw from any additional courses. So you want to be really, really cautious about using this withdraw policy, because if you hit that 18, there's no exceptions and no way that you can withdraw if you have an emergency or some extenuating circumstance in the future. So please put a lot of thought into the consideration for withdrawing. If you think that might be an option for you, consider the limit and just be cautious when you're making that decision. So after the 10th week of classes, from the 11th week through the end of the 13th week, students are allowed to withdraw from the class if they have extenuating circumstances. And extenuating circumstances means that they had a family emergency, an injury, an illness, something that was preventing them from attending class or completing the assignments. Poor performance is not an extenuating circumstance. So from the 11th week through the 13th week, you are required to get your instructor's permission and the college dean's permission. Now the college dean, the dean of the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, he's not signing forms or anything. He's actually given the Office of Career and Academic Services, so the office that Nancy and I both work in, he's given us permission to be his representative. So if you do ever need dean's permission for withdrawal or anything else, you would come to the Office of Career and Academic Services and talk to us versus going directly to the dean's office. So from the 11th through the 13th week, you have to have an extenuating circumstance and you have to get instructor's permission and dean's permission in order to withdraw from a class. After the 13th week, so the final 3 weeks of the semester, students are not allowed to make any withdrawals. So it's important that you're familiar with this timeline if you are considering doing a drop or a withdrawal, because you want to make sure that you are completing these things within the appropriate timeline. Now, if you are in a circumstance where you need to withdraw from all of your courses, the procedures are a little bit different. So during the first 2 weeks, it's the same as withdrawing from a single course. So you can withdraw from all of your courses in UAccess during the first 2 weeks, and they won't appear on your official record. You won't earn any grade. After the second week, from the 3rd week through the end of the 15th week, students can do a complete withdrawal. So that means withdrawing from all of your classes through an electronic form. And so what you would do is you would fill out this form indicating why you're doing a complete withdrawal, and you would submit it to the registrar's office, and then they would withdraw you from all of your classes. And you would receive a grade of WC, which means complete withdrawal, and again the WC would not count towards your cumulative GPA, it wouldn't count towards your GPA at all. The one thing about doing a complete withdrawal is that you still remain an active student. So if you encounter some emergency situation and you have to withdraw from all of your classes, you're still considered a U of A student and you can still participate in priority registration and register for the upcoming semester. So doing a complete withdrawal doesn't mean that you are quitting the university in general. It just means that you are getting out of all of your classes for one specific semester. Okay, so I mentioned earlier a grade of W or WC does not count towards your GPA. Well, what kind of classes do count towards your GPA? So something that all students should be familiar with is the grading scheme at U of A and how your GPA is actually calculated. So in general, most classes award regular letter grades. So those are grades of A, B, C, D, and E. So those are the grades that are used to calculate your grade point average. Grades of A, B, C, and D are considered passing grades, and a grade of E is a failing grade. Students may also, at some point in time, be enrolled in a course that assigns a pass-fail grade or a superior passing grade. Pass-fail and superior passing grades do not count in the calculation of your GPA, so they're not worth any grade points to count in your cumulative grade point average. You can see there are some additional grades that students can be awarded. So, for instance, if you encounter a grade of K, it means that the course is currently in progress. So a lot of times when students study abroad, they see a notation on their U-Access that says study abroad with a grade of K. And that just indicates to anybody that looks at your U-Access that you are currently studying abroad. A grade of I means incomplete. So students have the ability to work with their instructor to get a grade of incomplete if for some reason they weren't able to finish the entire class or all the assignments in a class in the 16 weeks of the semester. So they can work with the instructor, and the instructor uses a placeholder grade of I for incomplete while the students finish up the remaining requirements. And students have a year to finish up those remaining requirements, and if they don't finish those requirements in a year, that grade of I turns to an E, a failing grade. A grade of O indicates that a student audited a class, and auditing is when you sit in on a class but you don't receive a grade. So sometimes students choose to take a course as audit if they know it's going to be a really challenging class for them, and they want to sit in, go to the class, do the assignments, get familiar with the content without having to have a grade that counts towards their GPA. So I know a lot of students who do this in math and science classes. They take the course as audit for one semester to get familiar, and then they repeat the course the next semester for a regular letter grade. So they get exposure while they're doing an audit, and after they have the exposure, they take the class for a letter grade, and typically, because they have exposure, they do better in that second attempt. And a grade of audit does not count towards your GPA. So, like I mentioned earlier, it's just the regular letter grades that are counting towards your grade point average calculation. So you can see that each grade letter is assigned a certain amount of points. So an A has the most points, it's worth 4 points, and that's where we get the perfect 4.0 average, that's all A's. And the lowest that you can get are no points, and you get 0 grade points if you earn a failing grade, so a grade of E. So how your grade point average is calculated is the number of units of a certain letter grade that you get are multiplied by the points that the grade letter is worth. So for instance, in the example that we see down here, if you were to earn 9 units of A in the fall semester, you would take those 9 units of A, multiply them by 4 points, because that's what an A is worth, and that means that for those 9 units of A, you earn a total of 36 grade points. You can see here for the grade of C, if you were to get 4 units of C, those C's are only worth 2 points. So the 4 units of C would only be worth 8 total grade points. So to get your grade point average, what you do is you add up all of your total grade points. And then to average it, you divide the grade points by the number of units that you have completed or that you have attempted. So in this example, it's 62 total grade points divided by 19 units. And in that case, it comes out to be a grade point average of 3.2. So it's pretty easy to calculate your GPA, and I encourage students to do this like at the midpoint in each semester. Calculate what your current grades are so you can see what your potential GPA may be at the end of the semester. And you can also do kind of experimental GPA calculations. So you can say, well, what if I get A's in these 6 units and B's in 9 units? What will my GPA be then? So it's pretty easy to calculate your grade point average. And now you know how your GPA is being calculated and the expectations. Typically, students need to be getting grades of A and B in order to stay above the required 2.0 for graduation. So you need a 2.0, which is a C average. If you were to get all C's in all of your classes, you would just be meeting the very minimum grade point average requirement for graduation. So students really need those grades of A's and B's to ensure that their GPA stays above that 2.0. Okay, so sometimes students encounter an issue where they're not able to get the grade that they maybe want or need in a class. And in that case, they may want or need to repeat a course. So in general, a student can repeat any course at any time. You just can't repeat the same course more than twice. Our policy set forth in the catalog also describes that you can't repeat a grade of A or B. So if you are a perfectionist and you get a B and you're upset that you didn't get an A, it's not going to be possible for you to repeat that grade of B. What happens in a regular repeat is that both attempts of a course are counted in your GPA. So if you get a failing grade in the first attempt and you get a B in the second attempt, those 3 units of E from the first attempt and 3 units of B from the second attempt are both going to be calculated in your GPA. Another thing to note when you repeat a course is that you can only earn credit for a class once. So what that means is if you pass a course on your first attempt, so if you get a C or a D, a passing grade, and you decide to repeat that course, you can repeat it to try and get a higher letter grade, but you won't earn 3 additional units for that course because you already earned the credit when you passed the course the first time. So if you're taking English 102 and you get a D, and you have to repeat that because you need a C or better for English 102 to satisfy your foundational English requirement, you would be able to retake English 102 to get a C. However, you wouldn't earn any units for that second attempt because you've already earned the 3 units for the course when you got a D on your first attempt. Something that is unique to U of A, a special policy that's meant to help students, particularly students who have only been at U of A for a few semesters, is something called Grade Replacement Opportunity, or GRO. So GRO is a policy that enables a student to repeat a class, but instead of both attempts counting towards the cumulative GPA, like in a regular course repeat, the GRO makes it so that only the second attempt of the course is calculated in your GPA. So if we use that same example for English 102, if you get a D in English 102 and you retake it and you utilize GRO and you get a C on the second attempt, that means only those 3 units of C that you got on your second attempt will count in your cumulative grade point average. The 3 units of D from your first attempt will be completely excluded from the calculation of your GPA. So the purpose of this policy is to help students increase their GPA faster. So when you have few units counting towards your GPA, a poor grade or a few poor grades can really make a big impact on your GPA. If you only have 12 units and you fail a class, that can have a really, really big impact on your GPA. So the purpose of GRO is to help students who did do poorly on a few classes, help them get a higher GPA faster. So there are a few things to keep in mind as far as the GRO policy is concerned. There's some criteria that all students have to meet in order to be eligible to use the GRO. The first criteria is that you can only GRO a course where you've earned a grade of C, D, or E. So pretty much the exact same as the regular repeat policy. You can't GRO a course where you earned an A or a B on the first attempt. The second criteria for being eligible to use grade replacement opportunity is that you have to have attempted fewer than 60 University of Arizona units. So this is a very important thing to note because it's 60 U of A units. If you have transfer credit or AP or IB credit, those courses aren't counting in that 60 unit cap. And that's because transfer courses, AP, IB, CLEP credit, don't count in your GPA. So only the U of A courses that you take are counting in the calculation of your GPA. So as long as you have under 60 attempted U of A units, you are eligible to use GRO. You can utilize GRO on up to 3 courses or 10 units, whichever comes first. So if you GRO General Chemistry 1, which is worth 4 units, and General Chemistry 2, which is worth 8 units, that means the only additional GRO attempt you could make could be on a 1 or 2 unit class. Because if you were to GRO a 3 unit class, or attempt to GRO a 3 unit class, it would put you at 11 units above the cap. So 3 courses or 10 units, whichever comes first. And the final criteria that students have to meet in order to be eligible for GRO is that you have to repeat the course with the same exact subject and number. So if you were to take Psychology 150A1 and you got a D in it, and you wanted to retake it and use GRO, and you found a course that was Political Science 150A1, you wouldn't be allowed to use GRO for that because the subject and the number aren't the same as the first attempt. So if you wanted to GRO Psych 150A1, you would have to find specifically another section of Psych 150A1. So the same exact course numbers and same exact subject. Now, the thing to remember about GRO is that even though you have to take the same exact subject and number, you don't have to take the same instructor. You don't have to take it in the same semester, meaning if you took the course in the fall, you can GRO it in the spring or summer or winter. It doesn't have to be in the fall again. The course just has to be taken at U of A because, like I mentioned earlier, only U of A courses count towards the calculation of your GPA, so you wouldn't be able to GRO a course that was a transfer course because when you transfer it in, it's not counting towards your GPA. So if you ever encounter or you ever find yourself in a situation where you need to repeat a class, definitely work with an academic advisor to figure out whether it would be better for you to use a GRO or a regular repeat. So as I mentioned earlier when we were talking about grade point average calculation, it really is important for students to be earning those grades of A's and B's to ensure that their GPA remains above the 2.0 minimum that's required for graduation. So what happens if a student drops below that 2.0 requirement? Well, what happens is a student is placed on academic probation. So since the 2.0 is required in order to earn a bachelor's degree, when you fall below a 2.0, you are placed on academic probation kind of as a warning. And the university is just saying to you, hey, you're here, but you're not meeting the graduation requirements right now. So we're going to give you 1 semester to improve your GPA and get back above the 2.0, get back into good academic standing. So good academic standing is considered a grade point average of 2.0 or higher. So students are allowed to be on probation for 2 consecutive semesters. If you're on academic probation for more than 2 consecutive semesters and you fail to raise your grade point average to a 2.0, the university does have the prerogative to disqualify you. So what that means is that the university can restrict you from registering for U of A courses. So in the case that a student is on academic probation and they are disqualified, it means they can't enroll in classes at the university anymore. In general, the disqualified student can come back to U of A and can be readmitted. However, you have to meet specific criteria to be considered for readmission. And in general, that criteria is that you have to go to another institution, complete a certain amount of units, earn a certain GPA in those units before you'll be considered for readmission. So disqualification isn't necessarily permanent, but it is something that requires a lot of additional work before you can be considered for readmission. Okay. So something else that a lot of students may encounter during their time here at U of A is the maximum unit restriction. So during a regular semester, during the fall and the spring, students are allowed to enroll in up to 19 units. Now, we don't usually recommend that students take this many units each semester. Our recommendations as academic advisors is that you stick around 15 units each semester. But sometimes students find themselves in a situation where, in addition to taking classes, they might be doing an internship or an independent study or directed research, and they need to add additional units. In the case that a student needs to add units over what the maximum limit is in U-Access, the student has to have permission from the college to do so. So I explained the maximum units for fall and spring, which is 19. The limit for units in the winter session is 1 class or up to 4 units. So most classes are either 3 or 4 units. So 1 class in the winter, 1 class in summer pre-session, and the limit in summer 1 and summer 2 sessions are 2 classes. So in the case where a student needs to go above the limit for any of these terms, they have to get permission from the college. And in the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, our policy is that students have to have at least a 3.0 cumulative grade point average to have the unit limit increased. So if you ever find yourself in the situation where you need your maximum units increased, you would need to verify that you have a 3.0 GPA, and then you would come to our office, Career and Academic Services, and we would be able to increase your unit limit. Another common policy that students often encounter at some point in their academic career is a leave of absence. So a leave of absence is a policy that enables a student who plans on just taking a 1 or 2 semester break from the university to fill out a form that keeps them active as a student even though they aren't taking classes. So what that means is that if you file the appropriate leave of absence paperwork, you can leave U of A for 1 or 2 semesters, but you can come back and register for classes without having to reapply for admissions. So the leave of absence requires that a student be in good academic standing, which, as I mentioned earlier, means that you have to have at least a 2.0 cumulative grade point average. And you also had to have been registered in the semester prior to the semester you're going to leave. So that means if you wanted to do a leave of absence for the spring semester, you had to have been enrolled in classes in the fall semester. So a lot of times students take a leave of absence if they know that they are going to be away from school or unable to attend an entire semester. So I've had students who've taken leave of absences because they were going on extended family vacations, they were getting married and needed to plan their wedding, they were going on a mission. And in other circumstances, sometimes students decide that they want to take a semester or 2 off of U of A so that they can take some courses at community college or another institution. Or maybe a student decides that they want to work for a semester or 2 and build up some cash reserves before they come back to another semester at U of A. So really, you can take a leave of absence for any reason. The reason doesn't really matter. You just have to make sure that you meet the criteria, which is that you are a student in good standing and you completed coursework the semester prior to your leave. The leave of absence form, as well, just to note, is always due the last business day before the beginning of the next semester. So if you were going to take a leave of absence for the spring semester, you would have to submit the leave of absence form before the spring semester started. Okay. Another policy that we often get questions about in our office is the difference between a double major and a dual degree. So what are the differences between these two things? So a double major is possible for students who have two principal fields of study in programs that offer the identical degree type. So what that means is, as an example, a student can major in both agribusiness economics and management and veterinary sciences, since both lead to a Bachelor of Science degree. So if both of your majors are resulting in the same degree, like a Bachelor of Science degree, that means you're getting a double major. A triple major is also possible, so if you were in agribusiness economics and management, veterinary sciences, and natural resources, those are all Bachelor of Science degree programs, and it is possible to triple major. Your second and third majors can be in the same or different college. That doesn't matter. So for instance, a student can do a Bachelor of Science double major in animal sciences and biology. So animal sciences is in the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, and biology is in the College of Science. And it's okay to do a double or triple major in two different colleges. A dual degree is a little bit different. So a dual degree means it's possible for students with two principal fields of study in fields that offer different degree types. So what this means is, for example, that a student can earn a Bachelor of Science in Family Studies and Human Development and a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology. So a dual degree is if you're pursuing more than one different degree type. So Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Science, or Bachelor of Science and Bachelor of Science in Business Administration, or Bachelor of Science in Environmental Science. Those are all different degree types. The biggest difference between a double major and a dual degree is that with a dual degree, you have to earn at least 30 additional units to complete your second degree. So for most degrees, you're required to have a minimum of 120 units. If you have a dual degree, so if you're, for example, completing a Bachelor of Science and a Bachelor of Arts, you would need to complete at least 30 additional units. So instead of only having to complete 120 units, you would have to complete 150 units. And your double degree or dual degree can be completed concurrently, so you can be completing the two different degrees at the same time, or sequentially, meaning if you finish your Bachelor of Science and decide you want to complete the Bachelor of Arts, you can do one after the other. So either at the same time or sequentially. This is different from a double major. The policy for a double major says that you have to complete all of the majors under one degree program at the same time. So if you were to complete your Bachelor of Science in Agribusiness Economics and Management, you graduated, and you wanted to come back and get your Bachelor of Science in Veterinary Science, the policy states that that's not possible. So you can't do a double major once you've already graduated. So those are primarily the differences between a double major and dual degree. So it's just good to be aware of this if you do have multiple programs in your plan of study, so that you know if you have to require, or if you'll be required to complete an additional 30 units. Okay, so after reviewing some of the more common policies that students encounter, let's talk a little bit about some other strategies and tools that are out there and available for you to be successful in navigating the university. The first is there are some websites that are really, really helpful to students and that you'll want to familiarize yourself with. One thing that's really hard for students is to utilize academic websites. I know that a lot of times that's not the way that you are familiar with getting information, but it really is how the university in general relies on getting information out to you. So the university puts a lot of information out on websites and expects that students will be looking on websites to try and find this information. So if that's not something that you're used to doing, you'll have to try and readjust your way of doing things and try and utilize websites more often. So the first website that we're going to visit is the University of Arizona main page. So the hyperlink for that is just arizona.edu. Oh, and it brought me to something that I didn't want to show you yet. Okay, so just arizona.edu. No, we'll go the back doorway. Okay. The landing page for the main University of Arizona website is located just at arizona.edu. And if you click the menu, it will give you information on the different topics, and different resources. So most commonly, as a student, you'll probably be going to the information for current students. And this is where it will give you quick links to your UAccess, Desire to Learn, your CAT mail, the bursar's office, meal plan info, libraries, bookstore, UA job link. It will give you additional information on registration, academics and advising, student services, campus life, getting around, anything that a current student may be interested in learning more information on. There's one more thing that I want to show you in this main menu, and that is something called the phone book. So the phone book is a really convenient resource because it allows students to look up anybody affiliated with campus. So a good example of this is if you are registering for a class and the class indicates that you have to have instructor's consent to register. Well, it lists the instructor's name when you search for classes, but it doesn't list their contact information. So to find their contact information, you can use the phone book. So as an example, you can just search for me. So if you type in somebody's name who is affiliated with campus, whether they are staff, faculty, or student, a listing of names matching that should pop up. So you can see here, when you search for me, it indicates my job title, it indicates my email and my telephone number, where I work, and it also indicates that I'm a student as well. So you can see if you look up other students, it lets you know what college and major they're in as well. So this is a great resource for getting in touch with people on campus if you don't necessarily know their contact information. So the next website I want to show you is the website for our college. So for the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences specifically. Our landing page, the hyperlink is cals.arizona.edu. Now this is a really great place to find additional information maybe about your program specifically. So there is a Students tab up here as well. And if you click that, it will bring you to the homepage for our office for Career and Academic Services. And it's really great to be familiar with this website because there's a lot of important academic information on here. So for instance, as a current student, you might be interested in learning a little bit about advising. And we have a lot of advising topics listed on our website. And maybe you want to come see me or Nancy during our walk-in hours. Well, you can choose Career and Academic Service Advising. It lets you know how we see students, and then it lets you know at the bottom of the screen when our walk-in hours are. So obviously when school begins, these will be revised on a weekly basis to let students know when exactly they can come into our office as a walk-in and see us. If we go back to the main CALS homepage, It also enables you to connect with your department. So if we go to unit websites, you can choose the school or department that your major is located in, and this is where you'll find additional information on your particular major. So maybe if you're in family studies or retailing and consumer sciences, you might want to come to the website to check out what different student organizations are available for you to join. So be aware of how you can get to the specific website for your program, for your major, because like I mentioned earlier, the university relies on websites a lot to get information out to students. So you'll want to make sure that you become familiar with using the university website, the college website, to search for information. Okay. Another really great website tool that's available for students to use is a website called the Advising Resource Center. So let's go visit that site. The hyperlink is advising.arizona.edu. And the Advising Resource Center is a really great place for students to go to just get additional information about advising or policies in general. There's a really cool feature called Find Your Academic Advisor. So maybe you're interested in adding a second major. You want to add a second major in animal sciences. So you can search animal sciences in the Find Advisor, and it will give you information on who the advisors are for that program and how you can schedule an appointment with them. The Advising Resource Center also has a lot of online tools for students. So there's this really cool tool called the Assignment Scheduler. And this is actually linked through the library. So this is a really awesome time management tool that you can use. It allows you to put in the date you begin the assignment, the date the assignment is due, and you can kind of put all of those together into one database. There's also a really cool tool called your grade calculator. So if you kind of want to do some what if stuff and determine, say, oh, I'm at a 2.7 GPA right now and I want to get to a 3.0. How many units of A or B am I going to have to get to a 3.0? This grade calculator will help you do it. And it also gives you information on different policies and procedures. So maybe your parents are interested in calling into the school and finding out about your academic records. So maybe you want to look up about FERPA, which is the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, and learn a little bit about how your parents would need to go about getting access to those records. And the answer to that is they would need written consent from you. And you can access the form and everything that they would need to fill out. So this is another really great website. It links a lot of resources from different web pages together in one convenient place. So if you are having issues or questions regarding policies and procedures or advising or anything like this, the Advising Resource Center website is a really awesome tool. And then one additional really great resource for students to use is the University of Arizona app. So the app has just gone through kind of a facelift, and it looks a lot different. But the app is really awesome. It allows you to access your U-Access, the dates and deadlines, a lot of the things that are available through the different websites that I just showed you. It's all available in one place on your smartphone or on your tablet. Another really cool thing about the app, if you haven't discovered it yet, is there's a map feature, and you can kind of GPS your location from one spot to another. So if you're having trouble finding a building or you don't know where to go, you can use the app, type in what you're looking for, and it will kind of give you step-by-step directions on how to get there. So if you don't have the app, I would really encourage you to download it. It's available on like the Play Store and the Apple Store, and any format you should be able to get it for free. Another important thing to remember is that there are a lot of dates and deadlines throughout each semester, and you want to make sure that you are up to date on what all those dates and deadlines are. So I'm going to show you where you can access the dates and deadlines calculator, or the dates and deadlines listing. In the Advising Resource Center is under Policy and Procedures. You would just choose Registrar Dates and Deadlines, and it will bring you directly to the website where you can look up dates and deadlines for any upcoming term. So you can see we can look up for this fall, and coming soon we'll be able to look up the dates and deadlines for spring as well. So if we look at fall, we'll be able to see things like when is the last day I can use UAccess to add a class, or when's the last day I can drop and receive a full refund, or when does the late registration fee begin? Things like that. These have to do with the U of A policies, and you want to familiarize yourself with them so that you don't get hit with something that you're not expecting. And as our way of helping you remember the dates and deadlines and informing you of other upcoming events, opportunities, job opportunities, internship opportunities, club opportunities, reminders, anything that we think is essential for students to know, we send out something called the CALS Monday Message newsletter each week to students who are in the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. So please be sure that you are looking through this newsletter each week when you get it. Not everything is going to be relevant to you, but you never know what you might find in there. And so it's really essential that you look in the CALS Monday Message newsletter each week to make sure that you're staying up to date with the upcoming events and opportunities. And finally, one of your greatest resources on campus is going to be your academic advisor. So if you're really confused about this policy stuff or you want additional information, go see your academic advisor. So we are the experts in policy and procedure. It's our job to know what all the policies are and how they're interpreted. So to find your academic advisor, you should be able to look in your UAccess Student Center. There's a column on the right, and one of the sections says Advisors, and it lists who your academic advisor is. And if you click Details, like I have highlighted here, it brings you to a page that gives you additional contact information and lets you know how you can actually schedule an appointment. So an advisor, our whole job is to be here to assist students. So be proactive and don't be afraid to ask questions or get clarification. And establish a good relationship with your advisor so that you are familiar with policies and procedures. And if you do find yourself in a precarious situation, you know that you have an ally who's there to help you. So a lot of information, and a lot of information on things that may not necessarily be relevant to you right at this moment, but they're things that you'll probably encounter at some point throughout your undergraduate career. So good luck for the rest of this week. I hope you had a great first week of classes, and we'll see you next week.